what's up? Okay, so do you want to like introduce yourself to the camera? Or like records? I don't know.
My name is Danny.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Harper. And so today's kind of discussion is, so you picked the topic. So how about you kind of explain?
Boy, I don't know. The topic is what it means to be creative.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so whenever I asked you to pick a topic and everything, you brought up a video about Van Gogh that you watched.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to kind of explain the video and kind of why it's making you want to discuss this topic?
Yes, okay. The video was basically like, it was sort of a documentary about Van Gogh, but it was mostly like, it was talking about like how his insanity basically got in the way of the fact that he was a genius and like his insane creativity. Like his brother wrote in a letter that it's such a shame that he's his own enemy because he's such a brilliant mind. And I don't know, it tells the story of just how he attacked his roommate and then cut off his own ear and sent it to his favorite prostitute. And I'm like, wow, this guy is crazy. And then I started thinking about other artists that we like, these just geniuses that were so, like, I don't know, they were crazy. That's all I can say. They were absolutely insane.
Okay, and so I want to know your opinion. Okay, so when it comes to insanity and creativity, do you think you need to be insane to be creative? Or do you think you need to be insane to be extremely creative? Or do you think you can be creative without being insane? Like, what's your opinion on all of that?
Well, I think anyone can be creative, honestly. Like, some people are like, oh yeah, no, I don't really do art, I'm not really creative. But that's just because you don't exercise that creativity. But I do think everyone has creativity and artistry inside of them. But, that's what I've been wondering about lately. Like, why is every good artist, like, there's something wrong with them, in the head?
Yeah, I watched a video, like, literally today, like, right before we did this, and it was talking about how it described a creative person as someone who is able to see chaos everywhere. Like, everywhere is chaos, and they're able to turn that chaos into structure, into art. However, it's very easy to be overwhelmed by that chaos, and that's why so many artists are insane. And so that's kind of where, like, I'm thinking is, I don't think necessarily creativity is chaos. I think my opinion on creativity is the entire thing with, okay, here's the box, and this is society, this is societal norms, this is societal beliefs, and being creative is being able to not only just look at that box, but seeing everything else around that box. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that is chaos to the people in the box, but it's not chaos to, like, create, or to us, in a way. Because think about how many famous artists, how many, like, famous creators were known because they pushed the limits, because they saw all that chaos and they made it into art and they used it. And so my kind of idea of what I'm thinking is artists aren't necessarily insane, but they are just seeing chaos. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, I know what you mean. Like, that is basically what creativity is, just being outside of the norm and, like, seeing things differently.
Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, there's so many artists as well that were, I don't know, famous because they stuck inside the box. So do you think you can be outside the box and be creative and famous as well as being inside the box and being creative and famous?
I mean, I guess you can be inside the box and be creative and famous, but it's just never as genius as the people who think outside the box or see things differently, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, okay, because, so, like, mainstream culture right now. So, like, Taylor Swift.
Well.
Tay-Tay. So she's incredibly popular, and a lot of her songs are, I don't know, I wouldn't say they're necessarily revolutionary, but she's still very famous, very creative. And so do you think that, controversial opinion, do you think she deserves that because she is, or because she is still creative and her music is still great? Or do you think that she should be more revolutionary? Do you think artists should always be pushing to be revolutionary?
Well, no, honestly, I think they should, but I don't think every single one of them should.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, it's okay to be creative and be an artist, but not, like, be revolutionary. But I think art should eventually, like, start going out of the box and creating something new and, like, revolutionizing their area. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was so long ago, I watched a video, and a quote from it is this person was talking about how they were afraid to do something that had already been done, and their friend was like, well, how many McDonald's are across from Burger King's? How many gas stations are across from each other? Like, here in Oxford, there's those 2 gas stations right next to each other. Mm-hmm. And yet people are still going to them. They're still making money. Like, you don't, and that kind of thing is, you don't need to be the first. And it's, everything you make, unless it's a direct copy, I think it's still original. Because it's your work, and it's your kind of perspective and side of things.
Yes.
But I don't think we should normalize copying, but you're allowed to be inspired by others, and you're allowed to take from others. Because there's that entire kind of movement, whatever, like last year, really, like I'm a mosaic of everyone I've ever loved. Did you know, do you remember that?
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah. But basically it's the idea that everyone you ever meet, you take a little bit of them with you. And so you yourself is really like 50 to hundreds, just a ton of people that you may not talk to now, but you're still a part of them. Or they're still a part of you. And you're possibly still a part of them. So like, do you have a childhood best friend, like a childhood best friend that you still like remember, and like there's something that they did or they taught you that you're still using?
Not that I can remember, actually. But I did have a childhood best friend that I still do think of often.
Yeah, so I think that kind of idea of like creativity and originality, like, I don't know where I'm going.
It's okay. Yap sesh.
Yes. But basically, what I'm trying to basically say, basically, said that like 20 times, but the idea of, because where did this even start? Okay, I need to like retrace my steps. I think what I was trying to say is, you, like, the entire thing, like, you don't need to be revolutionary. You can use other people's ideas, and it still will be your own, because you, like, your unique perspective, and the idea of, like, I'm a mosaic of everyone I've ever loved, because nothing is truly 100% yours. You are always influenced by other things. And so it's just a matter of how you combine your influences and all that. And so what I'm trying to get at, that's kind of what I'm trying to get. But so what's your opinion on like originality, and like, do you think like you always need to be original, basically? Because you said that you don't always need to be revolutionary. Okay, so basically everyone should strive to be original, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we shouldn't always be striving to copy everyone else's work. But at the same time, like, should we be allowed to copy and be influential? Like, what's your kind of opinion on that?
Okay, I do think it's like, I don't know, I see a lot of people being like, oh my gosh, you didn't even do this. It is like heavily inspired by this thing or something like this. But I do think people should be allowed to like copy or be inspired by other things because that's still being creative. Like that's just taking something and putting your own spin on it. But I don't think that's the only thing you should do, however. Like you should always strive to come up with your own ideas and be original, but like it's okay to not always do that.
Yeah. And so then if being creative doesn't mean necessarily being original, then what would you define as like creativity? Because we talked about seeing the chaos, but I think you can be creative by making different definitions of being creative. And so, like, how would you personally define being creative?
See, that's a hard question. Because I have an idea in my mind, but it's not words. Like, when I think of being creative, I see a person and, like, with, like, colors and flowers all around them. So maybe it's just... I mean, the word itself has the word create in it. So I guess it's just... I'm trying to think.
You got this. Take your time.
I would say just creating, being able to create something out of nothing, or maybe not nothing, but like taking what you have and then working with it. Like how we saw a railroad, and from that we like made this whole story or a world.
Okay, so kind of... Okay, so I know creativity and creative can have multiple definitions, but I also want to focus, so creativity and humanity. What is your connection between those? Because I have my personal connection that is also very influential on my views of what is humanity, and my ideas of how to preserve our humanity and like with modern day humanity. I'm not really gonna get that much into it, but I wanted to know your kind of perspective on like the connection. Do you think in order to have humanity and all that, you have to be creative, or do you think like creativity is kind of slightly separate from humanity?
Well, I think creativity comes from humanity. Like it comes from humans trying to get this idea out of their head. Like, you know what I mean? Just like vomiting your own soul into something, into like a poem or a painting or something like that. I think that is where it comes from.
I really like that saying, like vomiting your soul. Like, I really like that. That's gonna like stick in my mind now. But yeah, I get that. Cause I mean, I don't know. I think, cause like you said, everyone can be creative, and everyone is creative. They just never realize it 100%. Or like, creativity is kind of like sucked out of them. So, with kind of society and the way we live and like entire thing of hustle culture and you gotta be on that grind, you know, like 9 to 5s, like what kind of role do you see creativity playing and all that? Do you think, because we need a higher focus on creativity in our daily lives. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some things like you think people should do to bring creativity into this very fast-paced, constantly moving society?
Well, a lot of people like the people that aren't creative, they're like, oh yeah, they see it as a skill. Like, oh, I don't really draw, I can't really sing, I don't really like writing. But I think creativity is just something that like everyone has in them. And instead of just being like, yeah, no, that's not really my thing, and just going on with your life, you should probably just do it. Like, do something to express yourself. Like, even if it's just a splatter of paint, even if it's just dressing up a certain way, even if it's just singing or screaming to yourself, like, all that is creative.
I like that. So,
Like, it's something you can very easily incorporate into your own life.
okay, so I have to bring up the entire thing with schools and how schools kind of ruin creativity in a way. Do you have any like examples or like ideas like I've seen this and this is my opinion on it, kind of thing?
Well, I think that whole saying of like school kills artists or ruins our creativity just comes from the fact that you aren't like it takes up so much of your time and you're just sitting at a desk being told to do something a certain way without like any other of your ideas being able to come in. You know, like you have to do this way. You have to write this essay like this or like this. And it gets tiring, but that's where I think that comes from.
I like that because I think that puts it perfectly into words. The idea of like being only told to do it one certain way, because the entire thing of being creative is kind of doing it.
Like
Yes.
finding different ways and using different things.
Yeah, and so, do you have any kind of like advice? Well, you said like it's so easy to be creative, but do you have any advice for like specifically like a school setting of finding ways like to be a little bit more creative in your assignments or in your work or anything? Because I know that's kind of broad, but
Well, honestly, it really depends on what school and what teachers you have. Because, like, if you do something differently, you're probably going to get points taken off.
that's true.
But some teachers might be like, oh my gosh, this is genius. A+, or something like. So it depends. Sometimes there is no solution. Right?
That's true. But okay, so you've talked a couple times about people coming up to you and saying like, "Oh, I'm not creative. Oh, I'm not this. I'm not like that." Like, cause I know as an artist, I get so annoyed when I'm drawing or doing something or even like writing. Like I had this girl the other day literally, like oh yeah, I can't write. My thoughts are all over the place. I'm like, so are mine. Like, I'm no different than you. And so, as humans, we kind of create this esteem of creativity. Like, all the best people are creative. And so, but I'm not creative. I'm not like them. Because, okay, so there's kind of like a paradox. Like, creativity, it's this beautiful thing that, like, all the greats are really creative. Like, all our favorite musicians, favorite directors, favorite writers, favorite artists, they're all really creative. But at the same time, we don't respect creativity that much as well. Like, we hold these creative people to these higher esteems. At the same time, like, if your friend says, like, oh, I'm an artist, they're like, oh, okay. Like, you're gonna be broke for the rest of your life. And so, what I'm kind of, like, trying to say is basically this idea of this, like, paradox going on, and oh, my brain is like glitching out, like I can't put my thoughts into words. So it's this paradox, and give me a second, I need to like think.
I got you.
I gotta be creative, but so this idea of this paradox, and I think, okay, so I have to bring this along to AI because, it's creativity. It's 2025. We gotta talk about AI.
Yeah.
And so with so many people going to AI, do you, like, that is 100% harming the creative industry and all that, and it's making, I don't know, okay, so I have no idea where I'm going.
I know what you mean. I'm like connecting dots.
Yeah. But basically, let me start over from the beginning, because I'm just gonna edit that all out.
Okay.
Okay, so we have these different paradoxes, and one of the main paradoxes is this idea that, these all Da Vinci, Van Gogh, Mozart, Beethoven, Charles Dickens, like naming a bunch of famous people. And they're all known for their creativity, right?
Mm.
But at the same time, like these, like if you, like as a writer, like when I tell people, like I want to write books, I am writing a book, I want to make movies and all that, I always get the same kind of pitiful response. And have you ever had that like kind of...
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it?
I know, it's so... And I think that just comes from the society we live in with capitalism and everything being so expensive. And it's just hard to have something creative as a profession. Because, like, you either make no money, or it's, like, you really, really have to put in the work to at least have a chance of even making it big.
Mm-hmm. And so the entire thing with, like, burnout, like, pursuing creativity and art and everything as a career path, it is so easy to get burned out from it. And I think that is one of the worst and most terrified things for me personally. So I refuse to pursue my like visual art really as a career path until I am like really set in my money, because I'm so scared that this sacred thing for me, this like escape I created, I'm just gonna lose my interest because I'm so focused on using it for a profit. And that's one of the saddest things ever, in my opinion. And I know I shouldn't let myself do that, but at the same time, like, I don't know, there needs to be kind of a balance. I'm all about balance. It's like, you should pursue your creativity, but and I think that's one of the worst things nowadays. And I think that's why there is so much kind of pity around these artists, because so many of them burn out. So many of them fail because there's this massive pressure to be the best, to sell the most, to be liked. Because then once you start pursuing it for a profit instead of for pleasure, it becomes like, oh, I gotta make this for other people. And so I think when we create and when we pursue it for a profit, we need to maintain and preserve this humanity to it.
See, that's the thing about pursuing art as a career. It's like you're no longer making art for the sake of being creative and like putting your heart into it, like it coming from your heart. It's just for business. Like it's for profit. It's not something that's coming like from your soul.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier.
But that's like but then also at the same time, I don't want to have to go work an office job just so I can maintain this pleasure. Because I feel like every time I go into it like a work and because my job's great. It's not my favorite thing ever. Like I feel burned out afterwards. I get really tired, and so I don't have time to create as much. And so it always feels like a lose-lose situation when it comes to creativity, and wanting to pursue it and wanting to spend time with it, but also the balance between profit and pleasure.
Well, I think that's just the problem nowadays with art. Like, we have to work so hard to make money to be able to live and function in society, and it's so tiring, and we don't really have time to be creative, or like, it's just going to a job you probably don't even like for hours and then coming back and being so burnt out, and you don't even feel like making art anymore or being creative, and it's just like a dying flame. Like it makes me think of like a candle and you like putting your finger on it. It's, you know?
I like that analogy.
Yeah, and it's sad because like what is there to do about it?
I mean, like, exactly, it is 100% like a lose-lose situation and like a catch-22 because you want to make money to be able to sustain yourself and be able to, you know, purchase your art supplies. And even I'm a big person of like, you don't need the most expensive art supplies. Cheap supplies work. Like, I get most of my stuff from like Walmart and stuff. But at the same time, you do need money in our capitalist society. And I'm not necessarily anti-capitalist, but at the same time, and because of the capitalist society, like, we need money, and it's so important that I do think it is kind of the entire thing, like, profit over pleasure. Like, okay, we're gonna pick the job that makes the most money. The quickest way to make money, the instant, like, money is the top priority, then everything else comes below it. And I think that is a major, like, problem. And also because so much of the stuff nowadays is convenience. Like, whatever's the cheapest and the quickest. And so AI, it's so much easier and faster and quicker to get AI to make you an image and then sell that than it is to actually put time and your creativity and the human part of it into trying to make this image. And I think, in my opinion, that is one of the saddest things ever, is that people have gotten so lost in convenience and profit that we're losing our humanity in it. And there's really, I mean, you can boycott AI all you want, but there's the entire, like, thing, like you said, with people feeling like, oh, I'm not creative, because that's what they've been told, that's what they've lead to believe, and so they go to AI, and they go, and I wrote a story, like a little flash fiction thing, with a conversation between God and AI, and it's both, like, pro-AI and anti-AI, because in this thing, AI is, like, tells God, like, I don't want to create art. Art is what humans use to express these negative emotions they have. And AI is like, well, I don't feel that, so why would I create art? I only try to create art because people have gotten so scared of failing and so lazy of putting in effort that they turn to a robot to do it for them. And so, yeah. So you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I think creativity is just not really recognized anymore. Like, I don't know, AI is such a problem because it doesn't create art, it just creates content, it creates images, or it writes poems based off, like, zeros and ones. Like, it's not coming from anything but artificial intelligence. Like, I was driving through Tupelo and I literally saw a billboard with AI mice. I don't even know what it was for, and I'm like, bruh, how lazy do you have to be? And it sucks because now that's definitely taking away from artists. Like, it was already hard enough to pursue art as a career, but, like, with AI just being able to generate these AI cheese mice billboards out from nowhere, like, then no artist is gonna get hired. Like, that just makes it so much harder, and it's sad because it's literally killing creativity. No one's gonna want to pursue art anymore, and people are just gonna think, oh, I can just type this into AI and it makes this, instead of, like, learning art and trying to do it themselves. And that's because it's so convenient, but when everything's convenient, it just takes away from, like, the experience of life, you know, like, going through the process of making art.
Yeah, I watched a video essay about convenience or inconvenience specifically, and how inconvenience gives us this intimacy. Like, it mainly focused a lot on streaming and the difference between like DVDs and like CDs and like going to stores and like purchasing them, feeling them, holding them in your hand, really getting to know them, consciously choosing them, then instead of having an algorithm send you like everything your way. And I think also the entire algorithm is shrinking your perspective on things, because we were talking about the importance of perspective and getting to see other walks of life, but also because an algorithm, it just sends you what you've been interested in over and over and over and over and over, and you never get to go beyond that. Really, you don't get to consciously explore and go down rabbit holes,
discover new things, because it's just, oh, you watch this, look at this is similar, this is similar, like.
And I mean, your interest does change over time, and AI or the algorithm does follow that, but you don't get to explore as much, and also the entire thing with short form media is you don't remember hardly any of it. Like, scroll on TikTok for an hour and just afterwards try and recall all the videos you remember and all the content in those videos. And most of the time you can only recall like a quarter of it, maybe half, and then a month later it's gonna be less and less and less. And yeah, of course you're gonna forget things as you go on, but you're a lot more likely to remember something when you've been inconvenienced by it. It's like, I was like reading a book, I have to set time to pick it up. I have to set time to turn the pages and fully read it. And yeah, I can skim over a ton of words and not fully read it. But the more I'm inconvenienced by it, the more I remember it. And so I think the more you're inconvenienced when it comes to creativity, and the more creativity you have to use to create something, the better it's gonna be in the end, and the more you're gonna learn from it.
See, like, everything being convenient nowadays, like, I think just makes people just like lose their life in a way, because like, oh, I'm bored, let me scroll through TikTok. That's so much dopamine rushing through your brain. Or like, oh, I don't feel like driving, let me order DoorDash, and like it just comes through your door. Or putting on music through Spotify and like putting everything on shuffle and it just plays everything immediately. Like I don't know. Everything is just so fast, and you just kind of like you don't have time to think or breathe or like really appreciate what's happening. Like, when I open TikTok, I'm like just scrolling through all these videos that I don't even care about. Like, I'm not even gonna remember this. So like, why?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm bored, I could do so many different things that are gonna stick with me and that are going to entertain me, and I'm not gonna like, an hour isn't just gonna go by in the blink of an eye. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes everything go by so fast, and most of the time you don't even enjoy anything as much as you would anymore.
I mean, I love that you brought up DoorDash.
Because I'm hungry.
I am hungry. But, well, the entire thing is, it's the idea, like, DoorDash is so expensive. Yet so many people are willing to pay for it. And that does show that a lot of people have unnecessary amounts of money, but that's an entirely different thing. But also the idea of you would rather pay so much extra to save you like an experience.
Yeah, I know, because getting in your car and like putting on music and like driving through the town and then getting out, ordering your food, waiting for the food, getting the food, and then driving back, like, that's a whole experience.
Yeah, and especially I love, like, I usually, I don't know, with my mom, I love when we all get in the car and it's annoying as heck. My siblings are super loud. By the end, I'm completely annoyed. But most of the time, I have fun. I get to get out of my house. I get to leave my like normal, and I get to talk, I get to interact with people, I get to go into public, I get to see other people, and that's also, you get to experience more walks of life just by seeing more people outside of your home. And so just having that convenience and having it come straight to your door, losing that inconvenience, you're losing so much experience, and you're losing
Memories.
Yes, that's the word.
Like, I don't know, at the end of your life, you're just gonna remember sitting in your bed and like food just coming straight to your door instead of like, I don't know, good conversation you could have had with your mom on the way to the thing.
And also, or like going to the restaurant, talking to the employee, like even
that's a good memory to have. Like, it's simple, but those simple moments are what makes up most of our life.
Yeah, and so with how advanced technology has been and how much instant gratitude we have at our fingers, it's at the same time, like, it's this instant dopamine, but it's also this loss of so much more. And I think that's one of the saddest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've said that like 3 times already, but that's really sad to me. What's also, like, if we're gonna talk about like dopamine and hormones and all that, I gotta bring up like love. I know this is kind of really straying from creativity, but like the entire like online relationships, yeah, you get to meet more people and all that, but you lose so much of the human connection, I feel like, with being in person.
Mm-hmm.
And so also, I think, like, staying in your room and painting or writing away, that's cool. Good. Sometimes that's just what you need to do. You need to have that detox time. But also going to a cafe, writing. Going to a park, painting. Or I think those things, I think we need to do more of those things and see more people and interact more in a way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It is. But, and I mean, I know, like, it is 100% inconvenient, and it's 100%, like, a lot harder to set time, like, okay, I'm gonna go to the park, and not everyone has access to that.
Yeah.
And everything, but I still think like, even just going outside in your backyard, I think is 10 times more fulfilling than staying in your room. If that makes sense.
Yes, I know what you mean. Like it's a completely different experience me being in my backyard yesterday than today, because like the sunset looks different, or the birds, there's different birds, or like there's different noises of kids playing outside, or today there's not. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a whole different scenery and I'm still in the same place. Like, outside is just, I don't know. Go outside, touch grass.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
No, and so, like, the entire thing we're talking about with memories and, like, I think creativity, I mean, we're losing so much creativity because we're losing experiences and therefore we're losing memories. Like, so many of our memories are becoming, like, sitting in our room scrolling on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, texting a friend. I mean, texting a friend, there's still that human part and you're still talking to people, but I think, like, my favorite memories aren't in my room alone. They're outside with other people. And, I mean, I really wish, like, I feel so, I don't know, I pity everyone I talk to who, like, when I, like, just talk to them more and more and realize that they don't actually do much. They just kind of stay in this little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And especially living in Oxford and the way how much we do live in this bubble where no one really leaves, no one really goes outside and explores. And some people do, but the majority of people don't. And to me, like, you're losing so much creativity in the world because you're being confined to this one viewpoint. And that's kind of how we were talking about earlier with how schools make you learn it one certain way.
Yeah. Like, most people just, like, I don't know, a lot of people at school just, they go to school, they go home, do their homework, scroll on TikTok, like, text their friends, wake up, and repeat. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's not much to their life.
Yeah. And I mean, you can get, I'm not saying internet bad.
Yeah.
But you can have experiences on the internet, and there is so much, you can learn so much from the internet. And I think the internet used in the right way, if you use the internet as like a learning tool and all that, and inspiration, yeah, it can be good. But if you're using it for a temporary dopamine, I think that's where I'm like, you should rethink.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm like, the entire thing, what I'm trying to say here is like going outside and experiencing more is like searching for long-term gratification rather than instant gratification. And that's also like, so working out. I think working out is one of the best kind of examples to use for this. It sucks in the moment. It sucks to go on that run. It sucks to do those push-ups. But you are going to be so much more thankful later on. And so in that constant mindset, like, doing it for future me. Like, I hate the saying, oh, that's a problem for future me.
Uh-huh.
Like, just be nice to yourself.
It's next year's problem.
Yeah. And so with creativity, drawing that back and everything, putting the effort and going through the inconvenience of being creative is so much more gratifying in the long term. And you are going to be so much more thankful that you put in the time than if you didn't.
You know, I think working out is like a perfect example for that. Because, like, even then, it's still tiring and it hurts, but, like, it still does feel good in the moment. Mm-hmm. And it feels even better when you're done.
Yeah. Well, like, the, endorphins.
Yeah. And it helps you in the long run. Like, you build muscle when you creative, you... Yeah.
Your brain. Well, I think also, like you said, creativity is so easy. It does, like, when I say being inconvenienced by creativity, I don't mean working hours and hours on this massive project. I mean, literally, you could just, here, lay down in your room, close your eyes. You don't even have to be outside necessarily. Or, no, go outside, sit, and look around and think. Look at something, take one word, and just spiral from it. See what your mind comes up with. And just let yourself just think, and don't have any devices on you. Just, like, sit there and think. And I mean, and one of my favorite things to do is when people watching, I like to think, okay, well, what kind of life is this person possibly living? And to think, like, look at someone and be like, oh, maybe they're struggling with this or this. Or maybe, you know what, they just got married, possibly, and or they have their first love, or maybe they reconnected with an old friend. Like, just, and I think creativity can lead to so much more empathy. And so I think, and a big problem with today's society, I think, is we lack empathy, and we're so caught up in our own world and our own experiences that if we just focused on being more creative and we had this mindset like, how can I be creative, then we could be so much more empathetic.
See, that's why, like, when I imagine creativity, I imagine a person and, like, branches growing out from their head, because they're branching out to these new experiences and these new ways of doing things, or, like, just new things, just reaching out for this person's life and, like, taking inspiration from it, or, like, this kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just new things that you weren't familiar with before, but, like, now you're...
Okay, I like, because when you first said it, like, explained, like, the image you have in your mind, I was just thinking, like, oh, because, I mean, a lot of times associate colors with creativity. And so I was kind of thinking like that's where your brain was going. But I love the idea of like the branches representing branching out from your comfort zone. So I think, because we talked about how creativity, it's seeing the stuff outside the box. And I think it's also being able to step outside your comfort zone and pushing the boundaries. And I think that's what being revolutionary kind of is. It's not necessarily changing the world or overthrowing the government, whatever, but it's basically saying like, okay, how can I like use this to its max, and how can I like push my own comfort? How can I grow? And so I think, well, like a lot of music, I don't know if it's still like a major thing, but I know a lot of people were having grievances over like so much mainstream music just being the same over and over. It's the profit that all these artists are really looking for and everything. And so I think so much could be gained from just the idea of like, okay, how can I grow? If that makes sense.
Keep going.
Okay.
But no comment.
But also the branches kind of represent life, and like life grows, right? So maybe branches like, because one of my favorite, like the entire thing with animation, I love the word because the root word is animate, and it means bring to life. And I think creativity, because create also like create life and everything, and I think I love the association between creativity and life grows. It's always growing, it's always changing. Like I love nature so much because just the idea of all this is alive. Like not the rocks and dirt and all that aren't necessarily alive, but all of it's growing, all of it's changing, and it's so beautiful. And I think like as humans, we need to preserve our humanity. And in our humanity, what I mean is this life and this beauty to us. And like our beauty is also destructive. It's chaotic. It's absolutely monstrous sometimes. I totally butcher that word, but it's okay. But like, and with creativity like being like life and growing, and that's kind of like the association with humanity is the creativity, and like it makes us alive, and it makes us want to grow, it makes us want to change and become better. And I think so with AI, it can't be creative because it doesn't have that life to it.
Can I talk?
Yes.
No, I really like what you're saying. And it's made me think like creativity comes from life. Like it's like life bringing something else to life. Like when like an actor, when you see a script and like a character, that's not really life, but like when the actor interprets it and puts his own personal experience into it, then that's bringing something to life onto the stage. Or when a painter like comes up with a character and then paints it on the canvas, that painting is like alive because it's coming from the experience and the soul of the artist.
It's like what you said earlier, like vomiting your own soul up. Because if a soul is like you being alive, then you're vomiting up life, basically. And I mean, vomiting has like a negative connotation, but I do really like that saying, like vomiting up your soul. But no, I think we need, like, in order to truly be alive, we need to be creative. And so I think one of my biggest fears is being stuck and not being creative and not feeling alive because of it, in a way. Like, 9-to-5 jobs scare me. Like, jobs where I can, like, and I think 9-to-5 jobs can be creative, and I think we should make them more creative.
Yeah.
And I don't know, not just use humans like machines and have more creativity in the workplace.
Yeah, that's like, I like that, using humans like machines to just work, you know?
Yeah.
Like, in the minds. I don't know. It seems, I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, damn, I'm not gonna make money if I go into theater. Into the minds it is.
Yeah, and I think, like, cause like what we were saying earlier with how much life kind of deprives creativity from us because of burnout and all that. I really do wish that, like, I don't, creativity doesn't necessarily mean art, in my opinion. I think, like, in the workplace, using your own, being able to use your own ideas and be able to push the boundaries with it, and finding your personal niche inside your workplace and having, like, I don't know, I think one of my problems, because I have my own kind of like problems with like my job and my life and like work and all that, but I just wish that in my work and all that I could be more creative. And because as like I work in the food industry, and so as like I don't know, I feel like so many customers don't see me as a human and like having
Yeah,
life.
I know what you mean. Like, just something to take your order, not like an actual person you're talking to.
Yeah, and I think because again, DoorDash, because of like DoorDash, and so that all and like takeout and all that becomes so much more popularized, and we're losing so much of that human interaction. And like I love just talking to customers sometimes when they like spark up a conversation.
Yeah.
And I do like I wish everything wasn't so like gotta move fast, gotta get this order done, I gotta get to the next one. And I wish it was more like I love when I go to a restaurant and the waitress is chatty.
Yeah. And it's just, it's a different experience, and they're just like, okay, here's your food, bye. Like, it's just so much nicer to interact with other people.
And so I think by incorporating creativity into these workplaces and bringing life to everything, we can start seeing life in other people too, and seeing
builds empathy.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like where I'm sitting, you know.
You know those little food robots that they have at Ole Miss that like drive everywhere and get stuck?
No. But I think, well, it's also, it makes me, because I'm like, I wish people were more creative, and I wish that like I'm terrified of 9-to-5 job, but we need those people in a way. Like.
Yeah, we really do need like every job ever. Like, even if some pay less than others, like, who's gonna clean the bathrooms? Who's gonna build the cars? Who's gonna come up with this? Who's gonna write this? Like, we really just need work to function as a society. Like, it sucks, but we have to. That's,
yeah.
you know?
No, I get that. But so, I mean, that's kind of like, I'm like, that's why I don't necessarily want to get rid of 9-to-5 jobs. I mean, like, and like office jobs and all that, but instead I just wish there was a more focus on like creativity and the entire like human element of it.
Sorry, I'm not yawning because it's boring. I'm just tired.
No, that's real. But yeah, so circling back to kind of the mental illness part of creativity, because that's kind of like where we started.
Yeah, where did we go, bro?
Just wandering the endless like stuff. But so, I mean, if we're talking about creativity bringing life, do you think possibly that the mental illness like part of creativity is because life is this double-edged sword in a way? It's this awesome thing, it's beautiful, but it's also
horrible.
Yeah, like in order to have life in a way, you have to take it from others. So we ran out of storage, but we got it all fixed. So basically, I think what I was about to start saying is, I was talking about how maybe like the insanity of artists comes from because being creative we kind of defined as life creating life, and so I'm just gonna kind of use that definition you gave. And so life is like a double-edged sword, like I said, and it's good and it's bad and it's awful and good and great and all that. And so being creative, because I mentioned earlier about how being creative you can see all the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the chaos you can see all the awful, negative. And so being insane and that insanity could come from possibly being like overwhelmed and constantly seeing this negative side and getting too lost in that. Do you think that could like possibly?
Well, I think creativity just comes from people who need, like, to let it all out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They need to think of something, or like do something with their minds, or do something with their hands, and they create these like these masterpieces, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like Vincent van Gogh, he was actually a dangerous guy. Like, it's not that he was, he's a little weird and off-putting, because I've noticed people saying, like, yeah, creative people tend to be weird because they're expressing themselves, and, like, they're outside the box of society. But no, like, a lot of these artists, they're, they're, like, actually, oh my god, insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people make art to, like, put themselves into this work. And I guess crazy people tend to be creative because there's nowhere to go.
That's true. I like that idea. Like crazy people tend to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that creative people are crazy, but saying crazy people are creative.
Yeah.
Like, and I think because you were saying you were kind of maybe struggling. That's the only word I can think of. But with the idea, like, do you need to be insane to be creative? Is that what, like, that's what I remember. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay, no, honestly, I don't think you need to be insane to be creative, obviously. But I think people who are insane and creative just create something so much more significant that people that aren't crazy or, like, haven't been through all these experiences, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, that reminds me, so in my, like, French history class, we talked about all this impressionist, like, and post-impressionism, so we talked about Van Gogh and stuff. And, I mean, at the end of every time we talked about an artist, like, my teacher, he'd tell us these, like, awful things these artists did. And then there's, like, one artist who just, like, his art wasn't that grand or expressive or anything. He just painted this mountain, like, 50 times. And he was like, yeah, the man didn't really do anything. And so, I think the more, like, life you have inside of you, the more expressive it's going to be. I'm not saying, like, you have to be absolutely traumatized or crazy to be extremely creative. I think you just have to be more emotional.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Like, all these beautiful masterpieces just come from places that most people aren't familiar with.
Mm-hmm. And I think so much, like, using trauma as art, well, I think trauma can fuel art, but I don't think you need to be traumatized to make art.
Yeah.
And I think so many people, like, use their trauma to an advantage in their art, but I think I do kind of have a problem with that, with people who, like, only kind of create art about their trauma and just kind of talk constantly, like, hey, look, I experienced this awful thing, stare at it, look at it. Like, I'm cool, right, because I'm traumatized. No. But I think every single person has the ability to have these intense emotions. And I think we just get so lost in trying to avoid them, and so much we've been raised to be, like, don't have these intense emotions, and if you do, don't express them that much, especially negative emotions. And so I think if we start embracing all these emotions and all that and all this life to us, then yeah, like a lot more people would be like have stronger art.
Yeah. Well, in conclusion, like really anyone can be creative and creativity can be absolutely anything, but it comes from creativity just comes from so many different places because it can be so many different things.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about how like your perspective shapes your creativity, and so creativity isn't this one thing. It's so subjective and depends on what you've experienced, what you've seen, and like you said, everyone has creativity, and there needs to be a higher emphasis on creativity, but we need to have this higher emphasis on creativity and not losing it in ourselves, because if we're losing our creativity, we're kind of losing the life to us in a way. And so that kind of like wraps everything up in a nice little bow.
Yeah. Here's your present.
You're losing your life.
Bye. Do with that information Wait, what? Do with that information what you must.
Yeah. But no, basically, go be creative. Sorry, that lamp looks like someone's behind it. Like, I got freaked out. No, this is Bob. Say hi. No, I'm joking. But no, like, just focus more on creativity. And no, like, creativity doesn't have to be this massive skill or anything. Creativity, like I said, just go outside and think.
Yeah, just create. Period. See, we just created something.
Exactly. It wasn't that hard, was it?
No. No.
Totally.
I don't know.
I don't know. Oh. Bye.